If you develop at all, you're better than you were before. So if we're gonna go to the dance, we might as well have a nice dress.
Some of the Raptors tape at the top of their head saying, on your head top. That was impressive.
Ouch, like double ouch. Like Magic and Detroit beat us? What the heck is going on? Every forum you can look for right now on the interweb highway says things like this. Facts, losing to Detroit and Orlando is unacceptable, period. In the video I quoted yesterday, the Raptors Republic video that I mentioned you should watch, and you should go watch it, I started positing that, you know, for the last 6 games, the Raptors have been tinkering, and they have not been prioritizing wins. They have actually been prioritizing tinkering. So, I'm not saying they're losing on purpose. I'm just saying they're prioritizing tinkering over wins. That's it. But why are they doing this at a time when all of us quite reasonably think they should be going for wins? Obviously, don't we want playoff position? Don't we want the top 6? These comments, by the way, were taken from one of the 3 NBA Chev videos that have come out. So if you haven't watched the videos for NBA Chev's newest stuff, definitely go and watch them. This one in particular, I really enjoyed. Chev, shout out. You are my John Coltrane of Raptors fan content. And he's not wrong in this one. He wants to hold the young guys accountable, and he says Nick Nurse needs to do that. My point in my video is this idea that the Raptors aren't prioritizing wins. They're prioritizing tinkering. Why is this? Well, as usual, in an effort to explore this, I put out to you, my fellow fans, to discuss it. And I was not disappointed in the answers I got. But I have to say, I am disappointed in about half of you in terms of you guys helping me out in exchange for these videos. Around 50% of you watch the channel religiously, and thank you so much for that. Definitely hit like, definitely hit subscribe, especially you, the perverts in the dark that simply watch videos and get the milk for free. Hit the freaking subscribe button, you deviants. In the comment section, I asked you guys in my last video, it seems like we're prioritizing tinkering over wins. Why do you think we're doing it? John and P. King chimed in and said, hey, we should definitely be prioritizing wins. Like, don't we want a playoff spot? And obviously we do. In my opinion, it would be a great experience for our young guys. So why the heck are we tinkering as much as we are all at once with the lineup again? P. King goes on to say, wins hands down has to be the priority because the league, especially the Eastern Conference, is way too competitive to throw games away on purpose. You might not recover from that. Totally agree with you, P. King. On top of that, he says, Detroit outcoached us, which is not surprising because while the rest of us schemed to beat the top teams, Dwayne Casey for 3 years has just schemed to beat the Raptors. Well done, Dwayne Casey. Maybe when you start scheming to beat other teams, you'll go up in the standings. P. King's right. They definitely outcoached us. And last night, as P says, the Magic totally outplayed us. They did. I told you to watch Okiki. I was a little bummed Wendell Carter Jr. and Fultz didn't play. I'm gonna show you stats and stuff at the end of this video. First, I want to concentrate on this tinkering idea. P goes on to say, hey, look, we need to prioritize wins. And then he quite rightly says, this team clearly needs more pieces to compete in the playoffs. Bang! Ding, 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 ding. He styled it! Yes, the prize goes to P. King. This is totally the issue. We do need more pieces to compete, and that's the entire point. Isn't this exactly how we develop those pieces in Toronto? Don't we do it through reps and giving our bench guys more minutes? In fact, it's these reps for the young guys that lead to glorious successes, but also opportunities to fail and learn from it. That is what development is. Toronto is not a team that traditionally does well attracting marquee free agents. In fact, we've had trouble retaining our own superstars historically. So development is the backbone of the organization. And the most recent 6 games have been nothing more than very painful to watch teaching moments. Consider this, guys. We have an incredible starting lineup of Fred VanVleet, P, OG. Oh my, we're being interrupted courtside for an interview with OG Anunoby. Is this about Texas, Greg? Greg, can you hear me? Where's OG? Look out, look out! What's that? OG is? You sneaky bugger. Were you trying to sneak up on me?
Well, about what?
Seriously, OG, everyone wants to know what you like about Texas.
Oh, just What do you mean? Like, what do I like about the state? I don't know. What do you like about it?
I'm a big fan of belts, and I can see myself getting into buckles.
I actually really like the hats.
Well, no news is good news, I suppose, Greg.
No, that's not even fucking true.
Hey.
Where the hell were we?
Consider this, guys. We have an incredible starting lineup of Fred VanVleet, P, OG, Gary, and Scotty. That's a great five. And we've got all these great bench pieces that we have tested out individually, plugging them into the starting lineup. The only player we have not tested out alongside the starting lineup is Bonga to date, now that Malachi has seen his time with the starting lineup. So think about this. Now what we're doing is we're trying to actually put some of those 6, 7, 8, 9th guys in together in various combinations alongside 1 or 2 of our starters. The reason is we're running marathon men, and just as everyone points out, that leaves us open to injury. Now, it also helps us train to run an actual marathon, which is the point of the strategy. We're looking to outrun other teams. Our whole strategy is get more opportunities than them. But if someone gets injured playing this defensive first hustle marathon man 48 minutes of playing time kind of game come playoff time, if we get an injury to that starting five, right now we're screwed. So what we're doing is we are giving other guys chances to develop, because if they do, we're better off than we were earlier this week or the beginning of next week. If some of our guys that are getting some minutes now step up and take a leap, the light bulb goes on, something clicks, or we just organically stumble across lightning in a bottle in some weird combination versus a particular matchup, it means we might actually go further in the playoffs and get something done. Now, I know some of you are going to be reluctant to even believe that this is taking place. So what I've got here is the stats from the Detroit game. I know you're like me, and it has been so frustrating in orange watching Gary Trent Jr. go 4 for 23 in that game and then continue his slump. All of us are sitting here going, how do you go from being so hot to so cold? But the answer is actually straightforward. It's easy to blend Gary in and get him shots when we have our starting five. It's much more difficult when we blend him in with backups like these guys and still get him those open shots, because instead of being the 3rd, 4th, or 5th option, he's the 1st or 2nd. The Toronto Raptors coaching staff aren't asking, can Gary Trent Jr. be a 1 or a 2 in the future? Instead, they're asking, hey, how do we see if Gary can potentially be a 1 or a 2 guy this year? There's a good chance he'll be one down the road. How do we see if he's one this year? The answer is, we gotta test it out. He's completely blown us away with his development this year. I wouldn't be shocked if he could do it, but he's gonna need reps. We can't keep playing him hidden amongst 4 other guys if we need him to be the guy. We can't keep playing him hidden amongst 4 other guys if we need him to be the guy. And in these same games, we're saying, hey, let's get marathon minutes on Pascal and Scotty. Hey, what's this combination of players do? Hey, how good can Malachi be this year for 5 minutes when we need him, or if Freddie goes down, if we need him full time? How good can we be? We can be better if we take these learning hurdles and we stay off radar. This is the next concept. We stay off radar doing it against the Magic and the Detroit Pistons. Everybody sleeps on us. And I mean everyone. What better 2 games to not throw, but test things out and stay off radar from the big teams than the games against Detroit and the Magic? Think about it. Even the Nets back-to-back wins barely got any attention. Why? Because everyone will think the Raptors only beat the Nets because they were missing their 3 prima donnas. But let me ask you this. How many American highlights do you think failed to mention that both OG and Fred VanVleet were out for those games? It's perfect. No one will fucking watch those games. Perfect time to experiment. And if you don't believe that people sleep on us, Here are Nets commentators explaining their back-to-back losses against the Raptors.
Thank you. Great to have you with us here on the post-game show. Nets go to Toronto, looking to bounce back from that big loss last night in Brooklyn. A game fight, but it looked like the Raptors are in that fourth quarter, just had a little too much in the tank.
It really felt all game long like the Nets were going to figure out a way to win this game. You know, it's a close competitive game. You don't see a lot of games where defensive 3 seconds is called in a close game in the fourth quarter.
You catching this?
It got called on the Nets 2 times. I have to figure that Toronto's bench in the first half was complaining a lot because the Nets were doing a good job with their zone. They must have complained. They're in the lane. You got to call 3 seconds.
Really? It's not arbitrary. It's literally a matter of counting.
I get it. You want to call it 1 time. It was called on the Brooklyn Nets 3 times tonight. But 2 times in the fourth quarter, that's a little rough.
Please try and convince me no one sleeps on Toronto. It's actually amazing. It allows us to have this strategy that is ultimately kind of sneaky stealth mission where we test out various things against the crappy teams. And yeah, sometimes you lose, but you also develop, period. And if you develop at all, you're better than you were before. Doesn't it make sense to go to the playoffs and actually make a dent? When I consider it, it's actually this year that we might catch someone off guard. All of these top teams are the ones we're built to beat. Our Achilles heels are our fellow small ball teams that are kind of up and coming. The Charlottes, the Atlantas, the Magic, the Detroit Pistons. Those are the small ball teams we struggle against. Now you might say to yourself, no, listen, some of these losses are the fact that we're down OG and we're down Fred VanVleet. Okay, those are huge losses, right? Here are the details of OG's injury, and this is on CBS. He's got broken right finger, okay? So they're saying a couple weeks for this. Ask yourself this, if OG breaks a finger in the playoffs, does he sit out? Likely not. If Freddie's knee's bugging him in the playoffs, does he sit out? Likely not. This is legitimate rest, but it's also load management. And if you look throughout the league this year, there's Wendell Carter, Jonathan Isaac, Bol, Suggs. Last night, Fultz was on this list. Okay? Look, there's no explanation to Wendell Carter Jr. Look throughout the entire league. Every team has more injuries than normal. Why? Because Stephen A might not like load management, but it is literally the modern NBA to use load management. Okay, so get with the program, guys. Load management's here. No one's a wuss. Hey, when you look back at this with your grandkids, do you want to win a Larry or do you want to play 82 games? Give your head a shake, Stephen A. So let's take a look at the Orlando game. The thing that we're interested in, box scores are great. They show a lot, but I will show you a trick. This is on NBA.com. If you hit summary and then go down here and click on this, download Gamebook PDF, you get the better version of the box score. And the reason I like this is because it's got the official scorers report here. And as you can see, this is for, first quarter. There you go, first quarter only. You can scroll this through yourself and pause when you need to. This is second quarter. And this will show you second chance points, fast breaks, points in the paint, biggest lead changes, times, also all the guys that are out. So this is worth looking at, in my opinion, if you're looking back and trying to figure out, how we matched up against teams. And I think we all learned for the second time this year that the Magic are no joke. Like they have, I called it before the game, like I've said it all season, they're one of my favorite teams to watch because they're such a young stable of amazing young players. Let's take a look at Cleveland. They got Rondo, LeVert out for now. They just got back Garland. He was injured. And Sexton is out for the whole year with a meniscus tear. This is a really good team, guys. It's one of the only things I've come across that I wholeheartedly disagree with NBA Chev about. I think Cleveland is a solid team, very innovative team. You know how we've gone long arm monster with wings, traditional wing size players? They have gone like towering behemoth and will often play 3 to 4 traditional centers on the court at any given time. Add to that equation one of my favorite young players, Isaac Okoro, the emergence of Darius Garland, and as I said, just a really consistent, amazing kind of core of really big guys. It's pretty amazing. So enjoy the game tomorrow night. It is a winnable game, but that does not mean the Raptors are done prioritizing tinkering over W's. So it's a weird question. Are we better off trying really hard now to improve our positioning and going up in the standings, but getting kicked out earlier because we don't have depth? Or are we better off developing now, potentially dropping in the standings, but having a much better overall team because we developed players between now and the playoffs? I kind of feel like dropping down into the play-in tournament is kind of cool, and here's why. If we can keep ourselves at the 9th or 10th spot, no joke, I know it sounds crazy, if it doesn't look like we're going to be able to go deep in the playoffs, we might be able to drop below, say, Washington and get our #1 pick back, because then the Kyle Lowry trade would turn into Kalo in exchange for Precious Achiuwa, Thad Young, cap space, keep our #1 pick, and can someone tell me, do we get the #2 pick in that scenario from Detroit? Wow. Like, think about it, guys. If it doesn't look good, what's the point of going to the playoffs if we don't have the depth? Like, I'm all for the idea that it will help develop our players and give them a fire in their belly, like Memphis.
Adams going long, Morant!
But there's something attractive about the option of tanking if it doesn't look like we will go deep. Speaking of going deeper, we ironically match up better against the teams at the top of the conference. We have a hard time with the ones around our positioning that are small ball modern teams. The fact is this, no matter what, the amount we tinker and the amount we win are tied together. It's like a knob that we can adjust. And there are pluses and minuses to putting the knob in either direction. My question for you guys in this video is, which way would you tweak the knob? How much would you sacrifice wins for the sake of development, if at all? Or would you just go straight tank and try and get our #1 pick back? If you deliberately tank, you get a lotto pick. That's a pretty good return. We would come back better next year for sure if we drafted in the top 14 in the lotto. We'd have Thad Young and another player. It's a pretty good option. How does that make us a worse team next year? You'd be sacrificing the experience of a playoff run, which is valuable, but both options are suddenly intriguing. I kind of vote for tinkering. Weird. If you develop at all, you're better than you were before. So if we're gonna go to the dance, we might as well have a nice dress. Yes, it's all about the Larrys, isn't it, Kawhi? You strike me as a dress man. What color dress would you wear to the dance this year, buddy?
This is Chef's Kiss approved. Mwah!